When the Bible was written and then rewritten and then edited and then re-edited and then translated from dead languages and then retranslated and then re-edited and then re-edited and then retranslated and then given to kings for them to take their favorite parts out.
If you're getting your scholarship from comedians, don't be surprised that it's a joke. I understand this is a bit from a comedian, but it's shocking to me how many people think this is actually what happened. The real history actually shows the New Testament is quite reliable. The oldest complete copies of the New Testament we have are from the 4th century, which are preserved in Codex Sinaiticus, Codex Vaticanus, and other codexes from that time. If you compare that to other ancient works, the oldest manuscript of Herodotus is about 500 years from the original. The oldest copy of Suetonius is about 800 years from its original. As the scholar Dan Wallace has said, if you think the New Testament is unreliable because the oldest manuscripts are too far from the originals, then we'd have to throw out all other ancient works by that same standard. Moreover, it's not like the original manuscripts of the New Testament stopped existing in the 1st century. Tertullian, writing around 200 AD, says that many of the authentic writings were still in existence, and the Latin word for authentic can be used to mean original. Even if he did not mean the original writings were still in existence in his time, it still shows us that the works of the apostles were being held in high regard. Also, the manuscript P75 dates to around the same time. It contains large sections of the books of Luke and John. The scholars Dan Wallace and Darrell Bock note that P75 and Codex Vaticanus are from the same family of manuscripts, and they are among the most accurate manuscripts today. But Codex Vaticanus is not using P75 as one of its sources. Instead, it's using an ancestor of P75. So as Bock and Wallace say, the combination of these two manuscripts in a particular reading must surely go back to the very beginning of the 2nd century. In other words, we have strong evidence the readings in this manuscript tradition date to before the time that Tertullian said the authentic writings are still around. We have no evidence of massive corruption. We have no evidence that at one point a king or a pope would have had control of all the New Testament manuscripts and would have been able to change what he wanted. Now, it's true there are a lot of textual variants in the manuscript traditions, but Bock and Wallace note the overwhelming majority are just differences in spelling, differences that involve synonyms, or differences that come from late manuscripts and are not viable. Dan Wallace has also pointed out that textual criticism has shown that there is no evidence that any essential Christian doctrine has changed. In other words, all essential Christian doctrines likely go back to the 1st century and the apostles. Now, there's a lot more I could cover. I've only scratched the surface. But when we look at the actual evidence, we can see the New Testament is quite reliable.